Good evening. My name is Barry Miller. I'm President and COO of DVIRC, and I want to welcome you tonight on behalf of the sponsors and also our closely aligned consultants and our special guests and speakers. We want to welcome you tonight to this event. This is our Manufacturing Leadership Series. We've been running this for a couple of years, and I think you're going to really enjoy the speakers tonight.
It's certainly good to be here as well. I was expressing to Jeff Kapenitz earlier my motivation for coming. Along our way in our lean journey, I've been privileged to go to a variety of different places, benchmark a variety of different organizations, listen to people tell their lean journey, and it gradually over a number of years has made a huge difference in the way I perceive what we do. Unlike people that you run into who get into lean oftentimes, and we just sort of heard a story similar to this, they get into it because they've got something really pressing them. There's something that's gone wrong and they see an opportunity and they want to do it. We were not really in that kind of a position. We were winning in many ways. We were growing in I think I had this right, about 25 years we grew double-digit growth every year uninterrupted. So our relationship with our employees, our relationship with our customers, our relationship in the marketplace was very, very successful. But I was uneasy. I was getting uncomfortable with with things that I perceived, and I won't go through all of them for you, but I could see that the industry consolidation in the ice cream business meant that the people who were surviving were stronger and much more savvy, and the competition was getting more fierce. I could begin to perceive that our productivity growth was flattening out as an organization. We had a tendency to solve problems with capital. So when things weren't going quite right, we'd say, well, I need some equipment, or I need this, or I need that. And then a lot of times I noticed when we did our capital solutions, we would get 80 or 90% out of what our investment should get to us. We didn't get everything we thought that it would get for us. And another thing that I saw that made me uneasy was I began to realize that the level of expertise was shifting in terms of our expectations of employees at all levels in the organization, but including leadership. And oftentimes when opportunities came for promotion, people weren't actually prepared to go to that next step. It wasn't that they weren't capable, or it wasn't that they weren't talented, but they weren't capable. And so I began to mull these things in my head, and I had this sort of uneasiness about where we were. And another thing that I noticed was that we had many great ideas and opportunities, more than we could actually do. So we were growing very rapidly, we were paddling as hard as we possibly could, but the truth of the matter is the number of things that we could do far exceeded what we were capable of doing. And I could look around and realize that it was in large part because everything in the organization was that traditional hierarchical model, where everything had to come up to some really smart person at the top, and they had to nod their head and say, yes, okay, and then everything went back down, and people tried to do what that smart person told them to do. I really began to get to the place where I said, hey, I really need to try to open us up as an organization to new ideas, and did a little reading, and I began to see the potential. And I just want to share something with you from our journey that it relates to the forward in the Toyota way. If you read the book, you probably read all the principles and all the things you can do, but Gary Convis says this at the very beginning in the forward. The Toyota way can be briefly summarized through the two pillars that support it: continuous improvement and respect for people. And he talks about what continuous improvement is, and he says, but more important than the actual improvements that individuals contribute, the true value of continuous improvement is in creating an atmosphere of continuous learning and an environment that not only accepts but actually embraces change. And I just was like, whoa, man, this guy's talking my language. This is right up our alley. He said, I believe management has no more critical role than to motivate and engage large numbers of people to work together toward a common goal. Defining and explaining what the goal is, sharing a path to achieving it, motivating people to take the journey with you, underline with, and assisting them by removing obstacles, those are management's reasons for being. And I was hooked. We did a variety of things. I took a group of people to DuPont. I remember sitting at DuPont and listening to the guy talk about lean, and he said, you have 15% there's 15% of your costs that you could remove from your operation. And I can tell you, I went home that day, and the people who were in the car with me, and we argued about that, and we convinced ourselves that, in fact, he was wrong about us. And 5 years later, I can tell you, he had us dead right. And I could not accept it on that day. But today, I can tell you, I think the number is actually bigger in our case, and we were really good at what we were doing. We were winners. I would just share that you know, sort of starting from the training and experimentation and teaching model, we've now sort of broadened that and said we've basically got 3 core strategies for lean in our organization. The first one is lean training, large groups of employees. Basically, our goal is to have everybody fully trained. We have 700 people, 3 shifts, 3 different operations, really, so it's not one thing, and we can't just shut down. What are the results? This is a tough one because some of what we've done, in my case, has really been focused on the culture change. We were really wanting to take a company that valued crisis management and get them to value teamwork. We really, you know, I tried to define it in several different ways. But it's not like we haven't had some you know, significant results along the way. It just wasn't my priority to define our success totally by that. But capital investments, I talked about that as a problem. We've reduced our annual capital investment by 40%, and we're not hurting our growth. Okay, it's just that instead of using capital to fix things, we're really now using lean to drive out waste and to get more out of what we have. I'm saying that typically, on average, and keep in mind, we have production lines that the products are growing 20 to 30% on them. So you can picture that about every 3, 4, 5 years, I'm doubling what I'm making on that line. If you're anywhere close to capacity when you start at that, it isn't long until you're in trouble. I'm generally telling people that on average, I'm making additions to manufacturing equipment 2 years later than I would have previously, or I'm getting close to 40% more out of a line than I would have previously got in the past. We've documented over $1 million worth of savings, and frankly, that's what we've documented. I think that it's much bigger than that. So, lessons learned. This was an interesting one for me to try to frame up for you. I think probably one of the biggest lessons learned, I was very afraid of how people would react. I know my management team was very afraid of how people would react. You know, I loosely described it as this, you know, you got incompetent people out there, and if you put them in charge, we're going to have chaos. And the nice thing about lean is it gives you a framework for dealing with that, if you will, and the training and equipping people to self-manage, and then, you know, being willing to take that step of faith. It's amazing to me how well people have responded to it and how well they do. This is a long-term journey, and you're not going to teach people once. Another lesson is I think that the pressure to be enamored by the tools, and sometimes our business case requires it. So I don't want to downplay this, but the pressure to be focused on the tools and to report success in dollars and productivity is really important, is really enormous. But people do things for their own reasons, and when they see how lean helps them, it takes on a life of its own. And so I think that you know, recognizing that people have a variety of motivations and being able to understand how it fits them and be able to talk to them in their terms, I think helps an awful lot. In another lesson learned in our culture, we've always believed people make a difference, but in our old management structure, we really didn't allow people to be involved. So our next steps, well, we're going to continue to follow our strategic plan. I'm doing the standard work for lean management. I basically have said, okay, our management team really has to join in this. The executive team itself said, hey, we need to figure out how to demonstrate on ourselves, so we're going through Hoshin planning training. We've been doing strategic planning for 20 years. I think we're pretty good at it. But I had to stop and say, could we improve? Yes. Would continuous improvement apply to what we do as management? Yes. We need to demonstrate to our associates by the way that we're willing to be open to teaching and instruction as well. So in our organization, you got promoted by staying there a long time and becoming a technical expert in some area. And shifting to, well, those things may still be important, but you're going to have to demonstrate lean competency as well in order to move on up to your next step. And that's another next step for us in terms of what we're doing.